Welcome back from the break. You're watching NewsX. I'm Uday Pratap Singh. We are decoding for you as part of the Bharat Progress Report 101 milestones that have been achieved towards building a new India. We've run you through several of them, and now in this particular segment we're going to be focusing in the high-tech space. Joining us, a special panel as always, we have Vivan Sharan now live with us. He's an author and partner, Coan Advisory. Major General J.K. Bansal, defense expert, is also joining us now live. And without further ado, let's quickly go across and decode for you milestone number 56 that has been achieved, in fact, this year. So milestone number 56 has to do with the smartphone segment, where India's smartphone exports has crossed the 20,000 crore mark in November 2024. That is, of course, a very, very significant figure. And, just talking about the year-on-year growth, well, the year-on-year growth has been achieved is significant because it's over 92%. Also, in fact, India's smartphone exports have crossed the 10,000 crore mark, in fact, in November, which is when, of course, this 20,000 crore mark, of course, but the percentage is also very, very significant in November 2024. That is a segment that is poised to grow significantly in the next quarter and the next year, hopefully, as well. Also, the PLI scheme, the Performance Linked Incentive Scheme, has truly been a game changer in this particular field and is also what is resulting in this increase in the year-on-year figure. Vivan, let me quickly take that across to you. What do you make of this significant rise in smartphone exports that have been seen in this past year?
I think, just to put into perspective, you mentioned some numbers. I'll just illustrate more about the scale first. If you just take Apple as one of the major manufacturers that has benefited from the PLI, or one of the major brands that further, uses contract manufacturers, Apple is already now twice or thrice the turnover of Maruti in India. So that's the scale we're talking about that has been achieved here. And on its own, I think it's exceeding $10 billion in exports. And this is a remarkable turnaround from about a decade ago, when we'd kind of written off smartphone manufacturing. The last sort of tryst with smartphone manufacturing that was a serious tryst was with Nokia. And we all know how that Nokia story went, unfortunately, because of the scourge of retrospective taxation. The company folded up in India in around 2013. Since then, there have been a series of courageous steps that have needed to be taken to actually onshore manufacturing again in smartphones. And I think over the next decade or so, the next challenge is going to be to try to localize more of the value that actually accrues from manufacturing in India. And that will take, a different level of nuance from what we've seen so far. So far, what we've been able to do successfully is get the major OEMs into the country. Their contract manufacturing ecosystems, to some extent, have also been localized. But the next step is the harder step, where we need to justify, further incentives to onshore components manufacturing. So what we've been able to do so far is about 18 to 20% of value addition in the smartphone bill of materials. And if we need to take it to the next level, which is in some senses a harder step, because it requires for us to generate that kind of smart manufacturing expertise that resides only in a few countries, including China, Vietnam, and the US. We'll need to continue to bite the bullet. And you mentioned that the PLIs have been successful, but they have not been uniformly successful. So there are sectors like textiles, etc. The PLIs have not succeeded. So we'll have to also be careful in how we think about the design of PLIs in all sectors. Particularly for IT, it requires nuance and depth to be able to reconcile the fact that we can only become self-reliant and nationally capable if we work closely with OEMs from around the world.
Okay, let's quickly now turn across to the next big achievement that has been made this year itself. That's milestone number 57, and that has to do with the UPI sector. Now, the UPI has seen a 15,547 crore transactions being reported and recorded this year. That's worth 223 lakh crore rupees from January to November 2024. Now that marks a significant increase. That's an increase of about 72% year on year from the last year to this one. Also, it has, of course, so that's 72 to 73% increase in 1 year. That is very, very significant. Also, in fact, that's about 632 banks now spread across the country that have adopted UPI. Also remember, UPI has been taken to the world as well. Countries like Sri Lanka, Mauritius, France, they've all adopted UPI. We all remember, of course, that visual on your screen when the German foreign minister was in India, and he in fact purchased some vegetables. And how did he pay for it? No, not by euros or by rupees, but he paid for it by the UPI app, of course, on his phone. So very, very significant there. Vivan Sharan, let me quickly draw you in here now on the Unified Payment Interface. UPI has really been a game changer for our industry. We've seen its growth, of course, year on year. Last year, 73% increase, reaching that 223 lakh crore milestone, 15,547 crore transactions in 1 year alone, Vivan.
Yeah, I think the most remarkable thing about this has been actually the culture of innovation within the National Payments Corporation of India, which is the umbrella body that runs the retail payments switch and the unified payments interface. Obviously, this growth is remarkable. We're now at par with the Chinese in terms of transactions, and transaction efficiency is really the next step to go to, where we also, accommodate microtransactions in every facet of life. But like I said, I mean, for some of us who are sort of private sector evangelists like myself, this kind of hybrid body which has been created in the form of NPCI, and the culture that it's been able to foster of continuously innovating. Now they're, for instance, taking out lending products. They've had many waves of innovation, over the last 5 or 7 years, to not relent on the fact that their operations are subsidized by the exchequer. I think they've been able to justify their existence. Again, when we look at the next decade or the next 5 years, I do believe there is space for multiple NPCIs to flower. So there should be private sector innovation competing with this sort of hybrid model, so that the quality of service, convenience, innovation, security, all of these facets are taken care of as we move ahead.
Okay, let's now turn our focus to an achievement that has been made in the space tech sector. And this is, of course, by ISRO. ISRO has been making us proud year on year, and 2024 was no different, as milestone number 58 is showing you. ISRO successfully testing its C-20 cryogenic engine capable of manned missions. Now, what makes this engine so significant? Well, this engine is, remember, going to be, of course, the fulcrum of the Gaganyaan mission, the ambitious Gaganyaan mission. This is a cornerstone of that ambitious project by ISRO. Also, in fact, the test, remember, was conducted very, very recently, last month itself. And it's happened, of course, successfully. And now it's qualified to operate at a thrust level of 19 tons. Also, this, remember, will be, of course, this has powered various LV-M3 missions in the past as well, and now we're hoping, of course, that the Gaganyaan as well is powered successfully and effectively by this very engine. Milestone number 59, meanwhile, also coming in was that India commissioned its latest multi-role stealth frigate, the INS Tushil, this year. And there you can see a picture of it as well on your screens. Now, what makes this vessel so significant for us? Well, this, of course, which you can see on your screens, is very, very significant because it's docked, of course. It was docked in London on the first port during its maiden operation. Before, of course, the commissioning, it is about 125 meters ton, 3 meter long, 3,500 meter tons. It's, of course, also, remember, armed with missiles and torpedoes as well. It's something, of course, that is the latest multi-role vessel in our artillery. And what makes it so significant? Well, for that, let's go straight across to Major General Bansal. Major General Bansal, what makes the INS Tushil so important? Also, I'd like you to weigh in on that previous big milestone as well, where now we have, of course, ISRO achieving yet another step forward in their ambitious Gaganyaan mission.
What I want to add about it is the stealth, means it cannot be detected by any kind of sonar or anything within water, but it is very, very important because these days the detection, whether you take in for aircraft or you take for the naval. So this is of its own kind, which has been recently inducted in Army on 9th December. Our defense minister has gone to Kaliningrad, Russia, and there is a Yantar dockyard from where it has been inducted into it. So this is the one important, and I would like to tell some other. Also, the INS Arighat has been introduced, and if you talk about the Air Force, there's the Prachand, which is going to be inducted very soon, and there are this. We have got the tank also, light tank. So there's a lot of progress as far as achievements are concerned. One of the achievement I would like to highlight here also, when you talk about the defense, that we had a stalemate with the China border stalemate, which has been resolved. This is also one of the big achievement as far as the defense services are concerned. Yes, please.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, let's turn our focus now to our next big milestone, which comes in on, of course, another big development that has taken place this year, and that is that the auctioning of offshore mineral mining blocks has begun for the first time this year. So India has begun auctioning offshore mineral mining blocks for the first time in the year 2024, and that is the big milestone number 60. Now, what makes this, of course, important? Well, it's a key step in ensuring India's vast exclusive economic zone, our offshore economy. The auction features about 13 mineral blocks, in fact, which are going to be auctioned. There are 3 blocks in Kollam, Kerala. There are, in fact, also, as part of these 3 blocks, which are in Porbandar, Gujarat, and also 7 blocks rather, which are in the Great Nicobar Island. So again, that's a big step forward this year. Let's quickly take our viewers through milestone number 61 now. That is that ISRO's solar probe Aditya L1 has reached a stable orbit this year itself. That ambitious project Aditya L1, remember, of course, it was going to be equidistant from the Earth to the Sun, right in the middle of the path there. Well, it has reached now a stable orbit this year itself. And why is the Aditya L1, of course, very, very important? Well, the Aditya L1, remember, of course, reached that stable orbit in the beginning of the year. It's designed to study the sun's atmosphere very, very closely. It's India's first solar laboratory. The milestone was achieved, of course, after a cruise phase of about 110 days. And approximately, it now is 1.5 million kilometers away from Earth. Let me quickly, in fact, bring in Vivan on these 2 milestones. Vivan, now offshore mineral blocks. For the first time, the auctioning of them to begin. It's a key step forward in exploring, of course, this exclusive economic zone for India, offshore economy, of course, which you're hoping will grow further and further in the next few years. Meanwhile, one more milestone for ISRO with Aditya L1.
Yeah, I think on the mining, India's Achilles heel has traditionally been, nobody really is willing to invest in what it takes for exploration and to prove the capabilities of the mines that we have. And one hopes that in the case of these mines and auctions, all of that process sort of translates smoothly going forward. And obviously also, the ecological impact of mining always needs to be minimized. And I'm sure that's sort of kept in the grand scheme of things, kept in mind. As far as the solar mission is concerned, it's super important for the world actually, because along with pandemics, solar storms are one of those kind of top 10 kind of events that can destabilize, humanity. It can throw off electricity grids. It can throw off obviously all sorts of networks. And these days Wi-Fi has become more important than electricity. So it can throw off the internet as well for an extended period of time, and that can really cause a lot of economic and social chaos. And part of the rationale for this mission in studying the sun's the activities in the in and around the sun is important, because we need to understand the nature of these solar storms and these solar flares. And I think this mission, like I said, is therefore a global public good in some sense. I'm proud that we've been able to put this out.
Absolutely. A quick look now at milestone number 62. That has also been logged in 2024 by India. India's first private military aircraft manufactory was inaugurated this year itself in Vadodara, Gujarat. That's also a game changer. You can see, of course, a picture there of this project. What makes this so significant? Well, of course, remember, it's a big step forward for Make in India. It's also, of course, it was unveiled, of course, earlier this year on 26th October in Gujarat, but it's now going to be producing 40 Airbus, aircrafts this year itself. Hopefully, the beginning will be made of that. Remember, of course, this was a significant step forward in our relationship with Spain as well. In fact, the Spanish Prime Minister was also present at that inauguration in Gujarat. It happened, of course, when he was in the country earlier this year. And Major General Bansal, at the end of the day, C-295 transport aircrafts, very, very important. They're all set to be manufactured at this facility, which is in our shores, finally.
Definitely, this C-295 Tata, which is being made along with them, aircraft is a very big, great achievement. And one thing I would like to tell here also, along with the aircraft, these days the drones are very, very important. We are acquiring about 31 MQ-9 Reaper drones from US, which is 31, which is costing about $4 billion and will be given to all the three services, that is the Army, Navy, Air Force. So this is one of the important achievement. And as I told, this tank, this Zorawar tank, which is a light tank, has been made by our DRDO, Defense Research and Development Organization. And this Make India program, we are exporting defense equipment, and it has been worth $2.63 billion dollars. So India is marching forward for the Atmanirbhar Bharat, and in the defense sector also. Moreover, we are now widening our scope. Earlier, we used to be dependent only on Russia. Now we are going to France as well as this US, and so that we'll have this all kind of thing. Because since the time the Russia is engaged with Ukraine war, our $14 billion equipment or this weapons used to be imported from Russia now, which has fallen down to 1 billion, that is 93% fall. So everything has to be taken into account. India is doing well, but still what I feel,
Yes.
one thing I would like to tell here, because we are having a two and a half front war, now it has become 3.5 front war after this Bangladesh. Our defense budget needs to be increased, which is nearly about $80 billion,
Okay.
while China is having
Okay, so that's a point to
$300 billion.
ponder for the Finance Minister of India, as of course she begins preparations for the next budget in February 2025. Stay with us. Let me quickly now turn our focus to milestone number 63. The construction of India's first state-of-the-art semiconductor fab began in Dholera in Gujarat in 2024 as well. So this again was something that, of course, happened this year itself in Gujarat. In fact, it's something that has been done. It's been spearheaded by Tata Electronics in collaboration with a big company from Taiwan as well. 91,000 crore project, aims for 90,000 wafer production per month. In fact, that's the capacity, and we are hoping that it will generate about 20,000 jobs in India. Vivan Sharan, what makes this new facility so significant, and what do you believe is going to be the ramifications of it?
I think it's a strategic area where India had to venture, and I think credit to the administration for, again, like in the case of smartphones, thinking about developing national supply chain capabilities in this area. Because even if this is a starting point, we have miles to go in terms of developing that capability, because the kinds of semiconductors that will be churning out of these new units are going to be not necessarily at the cutting edge at which Taiwan is currently. But you have to start somewhere. In the last 20 years, many have stolen the march on the semiconductor front, and the build-up of this national capability, it's like planting trees. It should have always been done 20 years ago, But now that we've started, hopefully it has a kind of an ecosystem effect going forward. What we need to ensure is that the kind of production that is happening here also, has is offset by demand, whether that demand comes from the public sector, whether it comes from the private sector, so that there's a virtuous cycle. There is a monetization that happens for the Tatas here. There are others who learn from the Indian experience and are able to have the confidence to come here, invest here,
Yes.
think very long term when they do so.
Okay. Now, another significant milestone, and that is number 64 on our list, of course, was to do with another big collaboration as well. And this is that India delivered its first batch of BrahMos missiles to the Philippines. A big step forward, of course, with this deal, of course, being inked earlier, but now finally delivery also taking place of these missiles to the Philippines. After the two countries had signed that deal worth $375 million 2 years ago in 2022. These missiles can, of course, be launched from submarines, from ships, from aircrafts, and remember, they have a speed of 2.8 Mach. And of course, it's a big move forward for our Make in India defense sector. Milestone number 65, in fact, was that India successfully tested its first long-range hypersonic ballistic missile this year as well. So that successful testing also did take place, in fact, this year itself. And remember, of course, this is a big movement forward for artillery. It's capable of 1500 kilometers range. It has a high speed as well. And India becomes now the fourth country in the world to possess such a hypersonic missile. It's expected, of course, to ensure high accuracy for our targets of our military. Let me bring in Major General J.K. Bansal at that point. Major General Bansal, very successful test of this first long-range hypersonic ballistic missile. We're now the fourth country to possess such a missile in our artillery. And this also happening in a year when we've successfully delivered BrahMos missiles to the Philippines in just a 2-year period after the deal was inked.
Great achievement. We are moving very fast. I remember because I was in DRDO in 1989. We tested first time the Agni missile, and I have very closely worked with Dr. Kalam, who was the father of missiles in India. And actually, it was tested first time in the Balasur, that is the Chandipur. And then there was one separate coconut. This island is there where this testing is being done, because earlier whenever there used to be testing to the around surrounding population has to vacate for that. So India is progressing very fast in the missile, and there's this missile is completely being researched at RCI Research Center Imarat in Hyderabad, and it's progressing at very high speed. Totally, this BrahMos also. BrahMos is, of course, everybody knows this is in collaboration with Russia. So we are doing very well in the missile system. At that time in 1989, there was a lot of hue and cry that why India has tested missile, but India went ahead with this, and this is a great achievement which is going on in a very, as you have rightly said, this is the fourth we are now.
Yes.
So after, say, so this is the great achievement which we feel so.
Okay, and let's certainly hope it sets the pace for many more such achievements as well in the years ahead. But for the time being, we've run out of time on this particular segment. We'll, of course, be continuing this marathon coverage. But for the time being, I'm going to thank Major General Bansal and Vivan Sharan for joining us on the broadcast. We're slipping into a very short break. Don't go anywhere.